is just fantastic. Captain's Log, Subdates 220325.3. Turns out the vast majority of the applications we've received were just fast food menus and pictures of pig poo. I promise you, we're going to interview every single entrant, just so we can liquefy each and every one of those menu senders. Welcome everyone to This Week at Twitter, or twat. I would like to start by apologising for not making one of these last week. Other topics got busy, and also had a bit of a weird shiver moment on Saturday. So we're going to catch up by starting with stuff I had for last week, and then coming right through to this week. So this could be long. I guess it depends on how well I am at making my points, or how much I want to prattle on. Now, as we haven't done this for 2 weeks, we're going to start with 2 separate tweets that I've put out, and look at some of the responses just to show how wholesome Twitter is. On the 13th of March, I tweeted out a picture of this, a mini disc player, with the simple question, wrong answers only, what is this? A washing machine for pixies, more of your sex toys, a health pack, the best tech that will ever exist. 6 days later, I tweeted out the new Ghost album on tape cassette, with the question, what is this? Wrong answers only. Pokemon cards. Code of conduct for all Vatican employees. The audiobook for the Necronomicon. An amazing band's new album. Interestingly, that particular answer in various forms, in the ratioed tweet where I got more replies than likes, cropped up a few times. And I can fully appreciate that. My view is, I wanted to give him a fair listen. Oh, but why not use Spotify? Why not show a little support? If I don't like it, I can put it in the microwave afterwards. Also, I didn't mind their last album too much. As far as the mini disc player goes, my brother-in-law gave it to me and I just wanted to see what people thought. I don't actually have a way to make it work or put music on the discs. I don't have the thing to put the music onto it. So I'll have to look into that in the near future, perhaps, if I can be bothered. I just wanted to show you how wholesome things are before we move on to things that aren't so wholesome. So I guess we'll now move to White Sith Male, Fuking LOL, which is a retweet of Dr. Philip Lee. OMG, I can't breathe. Accompanied are 3 images. The first is from Oryx. This is Igor. Every morning, Igor goes for a stroll through the nearby forest. Today, Igor found a Russian Army 9K330 Tor SAM system abandoned in the forest. Now Igor owns a $20 million SAM system. Congratulations, Igor. Reply from Jussie Kivininity. Someone please update Wikipedia page, current operators of Tor missile system. Igor with his new toy goes between Greece and Iran. David L. Here you go. Igor from Ukraine. One system. Now I did go and have a look at the page just to be sure it was there. It is not. But Ukraine is referenced underneath Russia, with it believed they have 6 that were spotted at the 2018 Independence Day Parade, which I firmly believe should be updated to at least 7 to include Igor and his $20 million Tor missile system. It is nice to see some people benefit from this war crime being committed against Ukraine. It's also fascinating to see how much Putin is willing to lose monetarily just so he can get his point across. What a bitch. An expensive one, but a bitch nonetheless. So next, I now want to talk about tweets that crop up, that when I then go and do a dig, I find out why the image has been cropped so heavily. So for this we have Mental UK headlines. Everyone makes mistakes, says teen who karate kicked 74-year-old man into River Mersey. Some people did hop on this and say, oh, no one ever calls it the River Mersey. But that's what most people call rivers. They preface it with river and then the location or the name. Don't be that person. Focus on the issue at hand here. That is, a despicable act committed against another person. And as a consequence for his actions, Benjamin Bridgman, the boy who kicked him over, was sentenced to 10 weeks in prison. Now, the issue I draw with this is, somebody's trying to make a grand point with this tweet about it being a mental line. Oh, how dare they speak like this? The youth, they don't understand. This is a year old. If you want to go with Mental UK headlines, use current ones. Old news to push a newer point just makes older people look even more boomer. And that's a big problem I have. because then I go look at these things because I think, oh, this could be a fascinating topic. It's a year old. It's a dead topic. And to use older articles in this context to push an argument and a point about the youth is the same regurgitated bollocks I hear from adults who say, "Our kids have it too easy in education these days." Shut up. Kids are learning phonics. Well, they're a shite. They are clearly being handicapped on purpose. No one needs to learn phonics. This might just be me being picky at the fact that there's a Twitter account called Mental UK Headlines using old UK headlines to get attention. And it does work. 66,000 likes on that tweet. That's impressive. That's good traffic. It's good for business. It's intellectually dishonest to remove the date from it though. At least put that on there. And while the kid is an absolute moron, the kid has paid the price for their stupidity. So onto something amusing. For this, the National Older Women's Network Australia. I thought this was satire, but it is either thoughtless or an insult. Public money was spent getting a graphic artist, choosing the designing, selecting colours, approving, printing and publishing this logo for the Prime Minister's and Cabinet's Women's Network. Poor messaging. Underneath is a logo for the Women's Network. This is it. Anyone else think that looks like a cock and balls? Replies. I can see what people are talking about. Though the W looks like boobs to me, which is insulting anyway, then I see the colour block. Doesn't make sense. Crap designer whoever they are. Plenty of good logos already out there. Agreed. Boobs or penis either is poor form. Guess it depends on how they look. Aesthetics are important after all to many. I actually see a resemblance in the W to the female breast in the first instance. But I guess when certain groups denigrate males overall, they will always seek and find a phallic symbol in everything. And that's a fair point. You have to look for a cock and balls to find a cock and balls. Although, a cock and a pair of honkers also sounds enjoyable, doesn't it? Yes, rather splendid. Now, jokes aside, money was spent on this. And I'm going to be really cheeky and say the font for that W exists in paint.net, so that's free. And to do a gradient, which is what has been used for the colours to shift from a lighter to a darker colour, only means you have to make them see-through for a moment, for binding them together. This isn't rocket science. You may as well have just gone with Women's Network in the blandest writing, but then you would have ended up with someone saying, why can't you make an effort? Well, there isn't a men's network, is there? Unless you're about to tell me the men's network resembles a vulva. Since that particular logo got a considerable amount of heat, the Prime Minister's department has since taken down the phallic women's network logo. So next, we go to the BBC, and yes, I will insert this now. Hashtag defund the BBC. One of the reasons we can add to this now, though, is because they have been peddling fake news. According to Chandler Hallow. Chandler Hallow works on the MrBeast YouTube channel, and he has done for quite some time. The BBC put out an article. YouTube star and associate of MrBeast, Chandler Hallow, shot dead whilst filming stunt for video, says representative. But here's the kicker to this one that makes it quite interesting. Chandler Hallow may have tweeted out the image, pointing out that, he's found out he's died. F, of course. But the writer of the article, Mark Savage, had to tweet out, "This is totally fake. I never wrote such a story. I cover music for a start, and the mocked-up headline breaks out style guy. Watch out for this sort of stuff." So while I'm fully in favour of continuing my dislike towards the BBC, in this context, they didn't actually do anything wrong, but it is being pushed as if they have. They are renowned for fake news, biased news, and of course for ruining good TV shows, and for regurgitating the same crap over and over again. But Mark Savage is not to blame for that image. A heavily doctored image nonetheless. And of course, since this exists and Chandler Hallow is now considered deceased because of it, F in the comments for Chandler Hallow. While we stay in the area of nice-ish, let's go to Dolly Parton. She was recently announced as nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, someone who I firmly believe should be there anyway, of course. I can't think of many who are more deserving. Regardless of genre, her influence, her input is tremendous. But there is somebody out there who does not agree with this. Someone who firmly believes that Dolly Parton has no place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm sure some of you are the viewers, but the one that really matters is Dolly Parton herself, who tweeted out a statement. Dolly here. Even though I am extremely flattered and grateful to be nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't feel that I've earned that right. I really do not want votes to be split because of me, so I must respectfully bow out. I do hope that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will understand and be willing to consider me again if I am ever worthy. This has, however, inspired me to put out a hopefully great rock and roll album at some point in the future. Blah 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 husband stuff blah blah blah. A remarkably humble response. I didn't realise they had to nominate people. I thought perhaps somebody on merit simply got in. But it's an interesting selection process. It's very different to the WWE, and no, I'm not going to spend another 10 minutes dunking on them, although I really want to. Maybe I'll save that for a video in the near future. I do have a question though for you, the viewers. When it comes to potential nominees, who do you think of the current, let's say, era of rock music, or metal, by all means, any genre that has a guitar in it, okay? Not indie. Indie sucks. Tell me who you think could one day be worthy of being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And by all means make this a personal preference and not one that is in any way influenced by the goings-on in the world with regards to other artists and their success. As a nice palate cleanser, we're going to now go to Taco Bell. Yes, I did in fact say that. You're all welcome. I've never had Taco Bell, but there's a video for this from NCH simply titled Meanwhile at Swansea's Taco Bell. It has over 95,000 likes.
Yeah, I saw it.
Whoa, whoa. Oh my god. Whoa. What the fuck?
Hey, what are you doing? He ain't get me. What are you doing?
Well, that's some classy Welsh people, as you can clearly tell. It's quite the, animated response to being a customer, of course. You're welcome, but don't worry, I have other videos to show you, courtesy of Fading Dark. Wait, is he saying the sun doesn't exist? The sun isn't hot, or the sun doesn't warm our planet? What in the F is going on here? How can someone be dumber than Flat Earth? Would you like to see some of this quality content? Of course you would! There are 3 parts to it, and I intend to share it all with you.
Let's talk about the sun, okay? Apparently, it is 150 million kilometers away, 100 million miles, and it burns around 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like close to 6,000 degrees Celsius. I used to work at a steel company, okay? To make metal, the furnaces burn around 2,000 degrees. And you can feel that heat from about, I don't know, 25 feet away. So you're telling me that something that only burns at 10,000 degrees can be felt at 150 million kilometers. Does that make sense to you? Nuclear fusion, and they say it takes 1 million years for the heat to reach us. It wouldn't have dissipated a little bit over 1 million years? By the time it gets, I don't know, say 1 million miles away from the sun, it would be frozen. This place would be a fucking ball of ice if that was the case. It makes no sense.
Okay, so it's now well established you're a moron, and somehow have managed to break the Darwin Award by surviving vastly longer than you should have. Space is not cold. There are 3 ways that heat is moved. 1 is conduction, 2 is convection, and 3 is radiation. You are thinking of heat as a conductor and a convector. On Earth, when the sun's radiation strikes the Earth's atmosphere, it heats up the parts of the atmosphere it strikes. The atmosphere is fluid, so that heat travels by convection all around the planet, warming even the night side of the planet, heating somewhat even the atmosphere over the north and south poles. Additionally, the transfer or conversion of some form of energy, mostly infrared, is what causes a heating effect. In the vacuum of space, there are few particles that can readily absorb the energy from the sun's radiation, which is why people think space is cold. And thus concludes your science lesson with Omegon, but don't worry, that was only part 1. I'm going to give you part 2 as a free gift.
I just made a post about how the sun makes no sense. This is one of the comments. So matter deflects and space is lacking matter. There's not much that would diffuse the heat before it reached us. Nothing would diffuse the heat from 150 million kilometers. Have you seen what happens when someone floats into space? They freeze instantaneously. Frozen. Where's the heat? How did the heat get to us if space is an ice ball? I don't know either. If you're with me right now, we're talking about the sun and how none of the facts make any sense. Here's another comment. You've never seen anyone freeze in space outside of movies. Get real. Okay, but if you Google the information, it says space is minus 455 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not in a movie. That's just common knowledge, right?
I think we can all agree here the man has missed the point entirely when it comes to matter in space and absence of heat and radiation. But you know what? We're going to let it slide because he's clearly too stupid to understand very basic science. And so instead we're going to move on to gatekeeping. It is a common practice for many people who feel very protective about something they, let's say, care about, to gatekeep for it because they want to make sure those that get involved in what they like understand what it means to them. Gatekeeping, though, can be quite toxic. It is very well known and established within many fandoms to be a very toxic behavior. If you like a certain aspect of something, that doesn't mean someone else can't also like it that way, but also like it a little differently too. It is entirely individual, subjective, and there is nothing wrong with that. I'm sure many of you are now waiting for a punchline, perhaps some sarcasm sign. No, I really mean this. I have a number of things that I hold very dear to my heart, hobbies that I find quite personal to me. When others talk about them, I don't make it a point to generally get too involved, because I worry that if I do, I will try to gatekeep. So instead I want to hear other people's opinions and perspectives, their interests and their involvement. It makes it easier for me then to be able to talk to people about it, without then worrying that I might become a gatekeeper, burying my own bias to fit in. It's a good way and a healthy way of going about things. Freaking nice guy. Don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day if you're not Irish. Don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day if you're not Irish. Don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day if you're not Irish. Don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day if you're not Irish. Don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day if you're not Irish. Here's a flowchart, because it seems like you effing idiots are having a hard time understanding. Are you Irish? Yes. You can wear green. No. Wearing green is racist. Don't. How you Irish MFers look saying you give people permission to wear green. On St. Patrick's Day, it is quite common for people to wear things that are green. It's common for people to dress like leprechauns, wear shamrocks, and drink a shitload of Guinness, and then throw it all up because it's rubbish and you should all be drinking whiskey instead. Might I recommend an Irish whiskey called Jameson's? How about Tullamore? And if you're a chav, proper 12. In this instance, I had wondered if you were a troll, a Poe perhaps, but the effort you've gone to, because of the engagement you received, is astonishing. You haven't been ratioed, which is quite interesting to me, but you think only Irish people can wear green. I'm assuming the military are exempt. What about football teams that have it in their uniforms? I also assume those that like to dress up as a Bulbasaur are exempt as well. By the way, green is a lovely colour. I had originally, long ago, wanted to put my avatar in a crushed velvet suit that was green, a nice emerald green, because for the longest time it was my favourite colour. It reminded me of trees and Sonic the Hedgehog. Because of the emerald thing, yeah, you got the joke, cool, fantastic. Let's move on. We are now going to talk about Caitlyn Jenner, who has been receiving criticism for a stance against trans athletes. For this we go to Pink News first. Caitlyn Jenner launches yet another disgraceful attack on trans athletes without a hint of irony. Reply: no, I just had the balls to stand up for women and girls in sports. Pink News link an article. The article goes into detail after an interview she gave, Caitlyn Jenner that is, to the Daily Mail, where Caitlyn Jenner has defended that biological boys should not compete against biological girls, and that this woke world we live in is not working. That is a quote if you can't see it on the screen. Also going against cancel culture, criticising the Brit Awards' decision to create gender-neutral award categories. What the Pink News article also references is that while Caitlyn Jenner is saying this, Caitlyn Jenner also competes in women's professional golf, which, if true, is hypocritical. This all falls handily in line with a swimmer called Leah Thomas, who recently became the NCAA swimming champion for a particular category, I can't remember which. A number of articles have pointed out that while it is a trans athlete that has won this event, which has been scrubbed by DeSantis in Florida because DeSantis does not agree with this, does not agree with trans athletes competing in, well, not their respective biological sex category. When people look at the analytics for it, rather interestingly, while Lia Thomas did win, Lia Thomas did not set any records. Records were broken during that event. Lia Thomas was near none of them, and only won that event. In other events, Lia Thomas did not do as well, which is rather interesting really. Many people have pointed out that if you're on hormone replacement therapy for a number of years, all your biological advantages are null and void, and there is a science to that. But many people will still say they do not believe biological men should compete in biological women categories. With there being an increase in trans athletes, I'm surprised no one said, why can't we have a trans women category and a trans men category? But I'm not an ideas person really, I just have to wonder why it hasn't happened yet. And I know why it hasn't happened, by the way. I just want to put it out there so you know that I've thought about it briefly. Interestingly, this ties in handily, this trans subject, to the fact that Graham Linehan is trending on Twitter, because during an interview on television, he admitted he has now lost his marriage. Because of his crusade against trans women, his wife has left him because she can't be arsed with him anymore. By all means, if you're not a fan of Graham Linehan for his Twitter activities before he got yeeted off Twitter, go nuts and applaud in the comments. I will stand by my previously held views that even someone like Graham Linehan should be allowed a platform, because I need to know where he is so I can see his insanity, so I can use it more in this video. I don't want to be doing this week at Gab, or this week at Parler, or this week at Telegram, which does work, but that means I have to get Telegram. I'm not getting Telegram. That's effort, and I'm far too lazy. So to move on from that, we're going to go to a tweet from Nick Diorio. Sometimes movie reviews on YouTube are just retelling the plot and nothing else. Interestingly, up until this tweet, I had never seen a movie review channel, but for some odd reason, not long after, that's what my entire recommended feed has become. So I thought, today, I would watch one or two just so I can understand what the bloody hell was all the fuss about. That made no sense. And it turns out Nick Diorio is right. It is all just a retelling in the most monotone delivery known to exist of a film, but in the vaguest way possible, which is also really shite. Now yes, some of the films weren't that great, I'm sure, but I'll be honest, you may as well just go and rent the movie, or rip it, I don't care, stream it if you can, watch it for yourself and make up your own mind. While these are known to be time savers, the people who absorb review channels that are just retelling of a story, you're lazy. You're so lazy you won't even watch a movie from start to finish. How tragic is your life? For the final subject, Captain Marvel was trending on Twitter, and I found this interesting because some of the tweets are hilarious. First of all, Brienne, don't let any of the discourse distract you from the fact that Captain Marvel grossed more money in America than every single film in the DCEU. As is well established, quantity over quality. That's not to say some of the films within the DCEU are quality, there are certainly some duds. But Captain Marvel is not quality. It is one of the worst movies in the MCU. It is well established as that. It may have grossed a lot of money, but that just tells you how powerful the engine is. I was surprised it did that well until I realized people were going to go and watch it because, you know, female superhero. Fantastic. Let's ignore the fact that the face never changed expression. At no point was she in any legit threat. The character development was non-existent because at every step of the way she was all-powerful. What's the point? How can anyone latch onto a character like that? Turns out, you can't. And before someone says, "Ah yes, but those on Rotten Tomato, they brigaded the audience score, that's why it was so low," you are negating those that legitimately, over 100,000+ ratings, who legit didn't like it. And by the way, the reviewers, the journalists, didn't even give it a very high rating either. Stop gatekeeping for the very few female superhero characters that have existed in the MCU. Go with the ones that were already awesome, and not one that could have beaten the crap out of every single person and not broken a sweat. And final tweet I want to use on this. The Bolzen. Captain Marvel was one of the better Marvel movies. Mind you, I think most of them are average at best. There's always one. Oh, they're all overrated. but I bet you saw half a dozen of them in the cinema and loved every minute of it. Quote retweet, Captain Marvel was literally one of the worst effing movies I've ever seen. Agreed. The Captain Marvel dick riding is strong with this particular trending thread. I'll link it down below if you're interested. As we are done, I would love to know what you think about what we've discussed today. Do let me know in the comments down below. As a final thing, I'm going to be streaming on Twitch later. Please help me by getting my followers up. You know, just turn up, smash the follow. You don't have to sub. It's free to follow. All good. Second, there will be a political recap stream at 9:45 PM GMT on the Moistski Live channel. If I don't see you on either of the two channels I've mentioned just now, I hope you'll have a fantastic Friday and subsequent weekend. And thank you all very much for listening. Ta-ta.